here with Event Director Hugh Brasher. The London Marathon weekend. It's obviously a very special time, and there's a very special anniversary coming up soon as well, with the 70 years since Roger Bannister. Your father was obviously heavily involved, not just in that, but is also responsible for this weekend as well.
Yep.
What were your sort of, your memories, or how much were you aware of his involvement in that landmark occasion?
Well, of the sub 4 minute mile, I remember the first time I knew really anything about it was at school, and I think I was 9 at the time, and they did a school assembly on the 20th anniversary of the 4 minute mile, sub 4 minute mile, and I really had no idea about my father's involvement in it. So I'm at school assembly and they're telling me all about it. So that sort of sums up probably my childhood in terms of, my mother was the French Tennis Open champion, my father was Olympic gold medalist. Just sport was what we did, but they were my mum and my dad. Bottom line. So I think it's only sort of later on in life that you get to realise, his achievements. What Sir Roger did 70 years ago was quite incredible. And again, I think it's, I believe for something like 9 years, people had said that it was humanly impossible to run under 4 minutes for a mile. So I think and you had John Landy try, you'd had the Swedes trying, and the Americans as well. There was this sort of across the world race to see if someone could do it, and everyone kept failing, so it was physiologically impossible. But I think when you really talk about the three people in the triumvirate of my father, Chris Chataway, and Sir Roger Bannister, what they did in athletics was incredible, but what they actually did outside athletics was even more incredible. And so Sir Roger, in terms of his neurological work, was groundbreaking. What he did there. So meeting him quite often later on, his mind was just razor sharp. The questions he asked, I would always get taken aback, thinking, oh my God, hold on, no one's asked me that question before. So an incredible man. They all three of them were quite incredible in what they achieved. They were pantheons of sport and of just their achievements. So in terms of the sub 4 minute mile, that was my first recollection. Obviously, I've watched it since. I think they try and say there were 6,000 people at Iffley Road. I don't think there were that many. Lots of people say they were there. I'm not quite sure that was true. But look, to have done that on that day, Frank Stamfel, their coach, the role that he played, and the role that he played then later in my father's Olympic gold medal, and the story of Frank in terms of being on a ship and torpedoed in the war, again an incredible man. So I think really it was just a collection of people that never believed that things were impossible, but believed that believed in the realms of possibility. And we stand here today. It's going to be the biggest London Marathon ever. More than 50,000 people on the start line. I'm sure record amount fundraising, £1.2 billion has been raised to date. Just some of the performances that we've had over the years, whether it's Paula, whether it's Samo Farah, the fact Eamon Martin was the last British winner. I mean, I'm delighted that Emil is running today. I'm not going to put that pressure on him, but it's just amazing to think what my father achieved, but all three of them, and then Sir Roger in really breaking that record at a time after the war, when he was training to be a doctor. I mean, all of these things, on a cinder track, in spikes that were, they weren't super shoes in those days. So, and the nutrition wasn't what it should be, the lack of sleep. What Sir Roger did on that day was incredible. It was, the help to a certain extent that each one of them that gave him, but it was to a certain extent. But my father definitely, it spurred him on to his Olympic gold medal. He didn't want to be the person that had just, he won 57 for 800 metres. Yeah. He believed that lots of athletes, and he was right, lots of athletes could have done that. So that shouldn't define him. I think Sir Roger realised that he needed someone as stubborn as my father at the pacemaking, because they went through the first lap in about 57.4, 57.8, I think it was 57.8, and Sir Roger was telling him to go faster and faster, you're going too slow, and my father absolutely ignored what Sir Roger was saying and carried on at his pace. So, and obviously, you know, what happened on that day, one of the sporting moments of the 20th century.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Sir Roger credits your father hugely for making the difference between breaking that barrier and not, because he didn't listen to what was coming from behind him.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well a trait of my father through his life. It's not listen to other people and just plough his way. But you know, this is Sir Roger's record. You know, and you know, if you see the videos, you see his stride, the majesty of how he ran. The effort that he put in, I mean, collapsing across the line, he put absolutely everything into it. So, you know, the fact it was done in Britain, not in Australia, not in America, not in Sweden, is wonderful. So, you know, and I think the mile event is just one of those events, you know, less people have still run a sub 4-minute mile than have gone up Mount Everest, which is quite an incredible fact. So, you know, 70 years, I think it's a great time to reflect on what Sir Roger did, and then the part that Chris Chataway and my father played. But it really is about Sir Roger and just the majesty of his running.
Were you able to sort of quiz them all about that day, or was there ever much sort of discussion in your family house about what happened that day, or as you say, was it very much sort of matter of fact?
No, it was very much matter of fact. You know, it is difficult to explain, but you know, as a kid, you're going on holiday, people are coming up to your father to get his autograph, and just looking at your dad and going, well, why do they want your autograph? I mean, honestly. So just because, you know, I think we often put people on pedestals. Everyone's a human, right? And they just might be incredibly good at something, and some people use that talent, other people sometimes don't get the opportunity, sometimes don't have the mentality to do it. And I think the mentality is so much about sport. It is having a belief about the art of the possible and just making sure that you get the best out of yourself. And I think that's in life what all three of them did. They just made certain they used all their talents in the way that they could, and their legacies will go on for an enormous length of time.
How much did that sort of spirit kind of rub off on you? You're obviously now responsible for, you know, a huge event, and after sort of last week, you know, a key figure as well in the sort of the future of British athletics now, given the joint venture.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely rubbed off on. I think that was a core part of what both my parents brought me up to believe is you know, you can't necessarily be the best, but you can be the best that you can be. Yeah. And you know, I said my mother won the French Tennis Open. She was singles, doubles, mixed doubles winner. You know, the competitive spirit in our family was pretty unique. Sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing, but so yeah, I think installed in me is you know, don't conform. Ask lots of questions. You know, I love lots of data, get lots of different pieces of data in, and then go for a vision. Set a vision, set where you want to go. And if you in sport, this is you know, I was competing reasonable standard at motorcycle racing, and it's about looking where you want to go. If you look for the danger, you'll end up in the danger. Look through the corner, look to the track, and you will head in that direction. So look to the future in whatever sport that you're doing, whatever your business is, and you will go to that place. And that's absolutely passionately what I believe, and that's definitely what I think my parents have taught me, and I hope I'm passing on to my two daughters, Sky and Rosie.
Yeah, and following on from that, you know, Sir Roger broke this seemingly impossible barrier. There are now standards being set in the sport that, again, people thought unimaginable, especially across the marathon. You know, how important is it to be shooting for these landmarks, to be trying to break these barriers, do you think?
I actually think the most important thing is to win, to set yourself up to win, and then what the time is what the time become, is the result of you winning. So, and I still go, this is for people at the absolute top. For everybody else, I always remember Roger Black, Atlanta 1996, I believe. He was racing, if I've got the year right, racing Michael Johnson. And for Roger, his gold medal was silver, was coming second to Michael Johnson, and that was what he did. I think he broke the British record at the time, ran absolutely incredible, and absolutely got the best out of himself. And again, it's just really just try and imagine a future that is positive. Be positive. That will rub off on other people. Take people with you on that journey. So yeah, it's what I believe in, and as I say, that has definitely been installed from my parents.